Welcome to the Business of Design podcast. I'm Cheryl Horn, Director of Operations for Business of Design. A lot has changed at Business of Design since this episode originally aired. For the latest information and rates on events and membership at Business of Design, head to businessofdesign.com. Enjoy the show.
Hello there, and welcome to Business of Design, episode 181. And we've got something a little different planned for you today. We are going to introduce, hey, somebody's already here. Is it Cheryl? Now, hi, Jacky, how are you? Should I unmute you?
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
I don't know what's going on. Not sure what's going on with my camera. I'm good. I'm from Australia, so I just thought if I go on it, I'm not going to fall asleep, and then that's why I'm back.
What time is it there right now?
It is 2:45 in the morning.
Oh my goodness, wow. Whoa, hey, put the brakes on. You're probably confused. What I started to say is we're going to do something a little bit different. Every month, members of Business of Design, industry peers, fabulous interior design folks come together in order to ask their most pressing questions. And I get to give them the best answer I possibly have to that question. It's a lot of fun. It keeps me on my toes. And there's so much good stuff we thought you might all appreciate hearing. So what you heard at the top of the show is me just signing into Business of Design group coaching, only to realize there was already a member on the line. A member from Sydney, Australia. So you're hearing Jacky show up to the call, and I'm asking her what kind of information she's looking for today. Did you show up this morning with specific questions you wanted to ask?
I've got a few general questions. I asked them before in the as part of the courses, and you said come to the meeting. So it was about. What
I'm thinking is maybe we can ask you first, so that you can get to sleep. What do you think?
Oh no, I'm going to listen to the whole thing regardless.
Okay, awesome.
So thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, good. Okay, wait a minute. You're probably still confused. So let me try again. I'm confused. Here's what's going to happen. Once a month, Business of Design has a get-together where everybody who wants to show up virtually can show up and ask questions. I learn a lot at these get-togethers because obviously I don't know everything. So if someone asks me a question I don't know the answer, we open the mic up and someone in the community has a great answer. So it was about 1 p.m. EST when I jumped onto Zoom, and I thought, I'm going to record the intro to the podcast before anyone shows up. But there was Jacky early, and as it turns out, really early, super early in the morning because she's in Sydney, Australia. So Jacky and I chatted a little bit, and I said Cheryl and I had been considering opening the mic up and recording some of the questions and answers for a podcast. But we made it really clear to everybody if they had a question they wanted to ask privately, we wanted to honor and support that so they did not have to participate in the podcast. We did about 50% of the call not for the podcast. So what's going to happen next? You'll hear Cheryl come on the line, and she's going to get everybody all organized, and then we'll start the questions. Things get a little raucous at one point when someone asks a question I just cannot answer on a podcast. I have no idea what Cheryl's going to do with that when she edits all this. Regardless, I'm really glad you're here. This is episode 181, Pressing Questions from the Business of Design community. We may not be together in real life, but I tell you what, we are there with you in spirit. And we know we're not alone, because we keep you right here in our hearts as well. Happier days ahead, and in the meantime, a wacky episode. Enjoy!
Welcome to the Business of Design podcast with Kimberley Seldon. Business of Design is the coaching community for independent designers like you. We know it takes more than hard work and talent to successfully run a professional design firm. There are proven business strategies that can solve your immediate challenges and transform your life. Don't try to do this alone. Join today and you'll have access to more than 100 video courses, participate in monthly coaching calls, and find unlimited support within our exclusive members-only Facebook group. Unlike traditional coaching, BOD is a fast track to immediate results for independent interior designers, decorators, architects, stagers, and landscapers just like you. Monthly membership is only $79. What are you waiting for? We all know design matters. At Business of Design, we think designers matter too.
As the episode begins, you'll hear me engage with Cheryl Horn, Director of Operations. And then I'll quickly explain to Business of Design members in the Zoom meeting what we have planned. And it should all make sense from there. Hey, Cheryl.
Hey, how are ya?
Hey, you have coffee. All right, that's not nice. I was debating if I should have one or if I should do it after, like a little reward, I don't know. I decided to hold off.
Coffee in the morning in like this huge mug. And then this is like my afternoon tea mug. I got to do like the
design
branded.
Oh, we have so many cute things we were going to give away at the retreat, at the conference. Like, wow. I don't want to think about all we've lost for the moment. It'll come back. But anyway. Hi, Ginger. She says it's her first time here after having listened to me for years. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. So good. Nice.
Yeah, a new member.
Oh, nice. Okay. Before we get started, I just want to say Cheryl and I had this brilliant idea. We think it's a brilliant idea anyway, that we would record this session, if you will, and use parts of it for the podcast. I don't want to stop anyone from being able to ask their question privately if that's your desire. So you're under no obligation to be part of the podcast. But if you're comfortable asking your question live and allowing people to hear your voice and maybe using a first name or an alias, then we'll ask you to open up the mic, ask your question live. And Cheryl, Jacky from Sydney is already on the line. It's about 3:00 in the morning, and she's got a few questions, and she agreed to be part of the podcast. So if we can start with her while everybody else is thinking about, I feel like I got like a bug bite. Like, oh my gosh, it's itching my chin so much. We'll start with Jacky, and then anybody who wants to ask a question and have it maybe be part of the podcast, great, let us know. But if you have a question and you do not want to be part of the podcast, no problem. I want to make sure you get your question answered as well. So no pressure. Let's get started. We'll open up the mic and hear from
Jacky from Australia, Sydney.
In Sydney, how are you guys doing regarding COVID there?
It's okay. Melbourne's back in lockdown. I reckon it will be, any day we'll go back in lockdown. But at the moment, we're all free.
Yeah,
which is a bit scary, but
yeah, it really is. It's and it's a marathon, turns out.
Yeah.
It's 3 a.m. in the morning. Jacky has stayed awake all night, which I don't even think I could do anymore. I go to bed now so early because of the whole COVID thing. I don't even think I could be up till midnight anymore. So Jacky, thank you for staying awake so late. And we'd love to answer your questions early so you can go to bed.
Thank you. So my question is in regards to step 1. With the initial consultation. And I was wondering, how would you approach it differently for a developer client as opposed to an end user client?
That is such a good question. And we get that from time to time. So I'm assuming that you mean the developer says, I've got this great big project with 82 homes in it, and we want to use you, Jacky, the design professional, to meet individually with each homeowner and help them make all of their selections. Is that right?
I wasn't thinking along those lines. It was more, we're doing a 6 luxury apartment development, or we've got this piece of land and we want to subdivide it and create, 4 homes on it, really high-end homes so it's not go to 100 different people and find out everything, make it perfect for every single person, but it's on a smaller scale, but still a big project.
Right. Okay.
But the clients are not emotionally involved because they're not the ones that are going to be living there.
Right. I could understand how in a situation like that, where you're essentially having a meeting with the developer to convince that developer that you're the designer who should be hired for the project. I can understand how a 2-hour consultation where you're charging a flat fee might not be the best way to go. Having said that, I do think I'd want to be clear prior to the meeting with the developer. What's the agenda of the meeting? How many other designers are you speaking to? What is it going to take for me to be the successful designer following the meeting? What are you looking for so that I can come to prepared to the meeting? And maybe it's just that you need a 1-hour meeting to discuss what they're looking for, and then you're going to be asked to provide a package that shows pricing. So in a way, it's more similar to commercial design, where a lot of designers for commercial design projects will go to that first meeting for free.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes.
Yeah. I would ask the questions though very directly, like, who else are you considering for this project? And then if they waffle on that, just say, I just want to know, am I in a mix with other designers I respect? Am I one of 2? Am I one of 9? I think that that's a reasonable question to ask before you decide to give your free time and go out and potentially give away your expertise for nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Cool.
I'm going to open it up to Andrea next.
It's funny, Jacky had asked the question via the forum, via the website, which happens, right? People watch a course and then they ask a question. And unless you have a little bit more context, sometimes it's really hard to give good, reasonable answers in that capacity. You sometimes need to ask a few follow-up questions.
Andrea, I'm trying to unmute you, but I need to ask permission. No, it's not allowing me to unmute Andrea. There might be a sound issue on your end. Okay, we'll come back to you, Andrea, if you can figure out sound on your end. Jennifer, can we hear you?
I'm here, yes.
What's your question?
So I'm in the process of revamping my business model. I've always just charged markup plus hourly for product and just referred business out. And I've decided to add project management to my services, and which I'm excited about, but it's very intimidating. I've watched the course on project management and how to charge and things, but I'm in the process of trying to figure out which contract I should download of what's offered, which one would suit my business model best. And I wanted to know if there was any verbiage on project management within that contract before I make the purchase.
The 2 contracts Andrea is referring to, one is my hourly fee contract and one is the flat fee contract. There's actually very little difference between the 2 contracts, which is kind of surprising because I follow most of the same fundamentals of Business of Design's 15-step project management strategy with both. So between those 2 contracts, in fact, both of them have the same policy around markups. They're exactly the same. It's just that with the flat fee contract, of course, you're not engaged to do the project management until you've completed the other phases, the other 2 phases. But in terms of how it works, they're both exactly the same.
Okay, great.
I'm glad you're going to do that too, because the reality is most of us are intimidated by that term, project manager. I don't want to be the project manager, but if you order one piece of furniture, you're the project manager for procurement for that one piece of furniture. And it doesn't take very much effort to stretch that skill set out to project manage everything. If you can order, track, receive, and install a single piece of furniture, you can do that for everything else on the project as well, provided you have systems. And I'll just give you one more, I'm biased. I think the designer should be the project manager all the time because I think we're much more detail oriented than a lot of the other trades. But here's a perfect example. I had a project, everything went great. And suddenly we decided we were going to do this new glass door, which was super fun. And we added it at the end of the project to the ensuite. And the contractor said, listen, I'm already talking to Louie over at the hardware place. So do you want me just to get the doorknob for the ensuite? And I said, sure. And so a flurry of things happened. The doorknob wasn't going. Where's the doorknob? Where's the doorknob? He finally sent me an email and said, is this the doorknob? And I said, yes. So he ordered the doorknob. And then when I went to the job site and saw it installed, it was 12 inches in diameter. It's massive. It looks like a Bozo the Clown doorknob. And so I had to call the client and took a picture. I'm like, a slight little hiccup with the doorknob. And we had a good laugh about it. But because of COVID, getting it corrected has been a bit of a nightmare. And because the doorknob was so big, they drilled 2 holes in the glass door. So now I have to have back plates made to cover up the 2 holes and then have the correct doorknob installed. And whose fault is that? The contractor says it's my fault because I said, yeah, that's the doorknob. And I would have to agree with him. And so I'm paying for the new doorknob, the new back plates, and the new installation because I should have been more careful and looked more closely at what he sent me. But when I project manage, that kind of stuff doesn't happen. So I'm just a big fan of just give me all of it to be responsible for. And then if I make a mistake, I can throw some money at it. No big deal. I've got money. Anyway, there you go. That's my week. The last 3 months have been stuff like that I've been dealing with. Like, no fun. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm going to try and open it up to Loretta. Asked to unmute.
Loretta,
Loretta, can we hear you?
Shouldn't we be in Palm Springs right now, Loretta? No, in October. We should be in Palm Springs together in October. Really sad.
Yes, I need that.
How are you? I know.
Doing well. Back in the city for a bit. It's different.
Yeah. It's a different vibe, right? When you're in an urban environment with lots of people versus like a rural environment where there's lots of space to roam. It's just a different vibe with everything that's going on.
I agree. Yeah. So I have a quick question for you. I'm working with a client now, and they mentioned they may want to take over the project after presentation. So I wouldn't do the execution. However, they're kind of hinting if it doesn't go well on their end, they might want to hire me to complete it. But that could be 3 or 6 months down the way. How would you handle it if they do come back and say, Loretta, I'd like to hire you back to finish?
If this were a video and not a podcast, everybody would have seen me put my 2 fingers to my head as if I had a gun, right? Because the reality is if they take it over to start, the only reason they will want you to come back to finish it, and they will want you to come back to finish it, is because it will be a hot mess. Only now it's a hot mess you didn't even make. So you've got to unravel the hot mess, and they're going to be already frustrated that they've spent all this money. Like, I just don't see a win scenario there. So I had a similar situation this last year. So it was last year, 2019. And I think I shared about it where I had to let the clients go because the husband decided he wanted to do the project management. And I said, I already know it's going to be a nightmare. I don't have to go along with this to know how this turns out. And I had a note from the wife of the relationship. Sure enough, it's a hot mess. It is a hot mess. And she's like, is there any way? No. I just can't win. Now, having said that, I'm not an idiot. If I needed to pay the bills, I would take the job and I would just suck it up and I would do it. But you definitely don't have to put yourself in that position. And then the other thing, Loretta, in terms of, so do they want you to do the purchasing and then they're going to take it over, or they're going to do all the purchasing?
Kind of sounded like she was going to do all the purchasing. I don't think it'll go forward even to start on their end. So should I just do a little part of the scope of work that if they hire me back, they have to pay an additional fee to review stuff if they haven't started working?
Well, I think if they hire you back, they're going to be in a terrible position, because the only reason they're going to hire you back is because it's a mess. And so you'll be in a position to charge for every single minute of your time to fix the mess. That's been my experience anyway. When I've come back to a project, I had a project once where the client suddenly let us go and said they were going to do the project management. And then when we got back, it was a mess. I mean, they just so happily paid all of our bills because we fixed it, but it just wasn't that much fun. And in that case, they had a child who had a severe disability. So I felt like, oh, I feel really bad for them. I'm going to go back and do this. But the one thing I would think about too, like, let's say that situation happened to me again. I'm using all these resources that are trade only. So that's another thing to consider. I would say to the clients, absolutely, you can take the project over. However, you're going to have to get quotes on the blinds, the fabrics, the drapes, because none of my trades are going to work for you. They only work for me. So good luck, and then I would talk to my trades and I would say, here's the thing that happened. And, if she calls you, the answer is no. The answer is just no. And then because we're human beings. If a trade said to me, I'm desperate for work, I desperately need the work, I'd say, great. So, gosh, that sounds terrible. Cheryl, you have to cut that out of the podcast. There are things we can say together that I just can't have out in the world. That sounds terrible, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean, yeah. So I know how to handle this then. Yeah.
Okay, good. And Cheryl, you're going to cut that out? Seriously?
You can. You might have to remind me.
Oh my gosh, I don't have any bandwidth to remind you. My brain is just done. You have to write that down. Seriously. I just that comment right toward the end. Will you make a note? Make a note. I'm watching her. She has to write it down. I'm watching. She's writing. Yeah. I mean, there's just certain things we say behind closed doors that I'm just not saying on a podcast. That would just not sound right. This is why Dina says, this is why we like the forum. Yeah. Cause I'm more like, yeah. Oh, Loretta, you're so sweet. She's emailing Cheryl to remind you. I love it.
I need a note.
That is,
I love notes.
So good. Yeah. So good. I'll quickly.
And if a few members are writing in about, questions about the retainer, but they're coming typed in. So we'll keep those ones, till the end. We'll keep that out as well.
Well, we could ask them. We could just answer them without hearing who's asking them.
I have a question about the retainer. Would you elaborate on how to provide assurance to the client that paying a retainer is a practice that benefits them as well as me?
All right. This is definitely not going on the podcast, people. Okay. So I need to think about this. I need to process this out loud with all of you on the call. The truth is period. That's the truth. However, and I guess I would ask, why do you need to justify why you need the retainer? So what I would say to the client is this is exactly what I'd say to the client right on the spot. I'd say the retainer is there to make sure that I can pay the bills no matter what happens. Oh, and then I tell them real life stories. And I'll say, this one time we are at a cottage, we are working on someone's boathouse, and the police come, cuff my client, and take him away in a cruiser. And we're all standing there with our mouths open like, oh my God, what is happening? What just happened? And back then, this was maybe 15, 16 years ago, my retainers were so small. So I think I had a $10,000 retainer, but he owed me like $300,000. So you can imagine my second thought after we're like, oh my God, are they cuffing him? My second thought is, oh my God, I need this money. You can't go to jail. You have to pay me, right? So I tell my clients stories like those. That's why I have a retainer, because things happen in life. And we also had a situation where the clients got a nasty divorce and they just stopped paying their bills. It had nothing to do with us, right? It had to do with the fight that they were in. He said she had to pay and she said he had to pay. But in the meantime, we didn't have any money. So I just quickly will go into those kinds of stories about why I need a retainer to make sure that I can protect the financial health of my company. And I've never had a client argue with that or try to persuade me otherwise. Did that answer the question? I went off on a tangent there.
I think it did. Ginger's got her hand up. Let's allow to talk and ask to unmute.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you. So my question is, I've been running my firm for a very long time, and I just started thinking about charging for consultation fees, which I never had before because we're a design build firm and I put pretty much all of that into the contract. So my question is, I'm starting to charge, and I don't know if I should charge 100 or 125 for like 40 or 45 minutes. Should I say that they would get that money back if they actually sign the contract with me, like on the, because I charge for a design contract, and then I also charge for, our building contract, and then I also do markup on our product.
Yeah.
That's something I should do to kind of win them over.
Well, what you're describing, Ginger, is a 3-tiered business model, which is the same business model that we have. We charge for all of those services as well. It's a bit like buying a phone. You don't automatically get data. You don't automatically get roaming. You don't automatically get streaming. You have to pay extra for those services. So that's a 3-tiered business model. I don't ever understand the rationale for saying, I'll come to this really important meeting and give you my expertise. And then if you decide to hire us, I'm going to give you that money back. I don't really understand that rationale. And if this were an evening event and we were all drinking wine, I'd say. And the other thing I would say, that if you're looking at charging something like $100 for a consultation, what kind of customer thinks $100 is worthwhile and valuable? To me, that's speaking to a client who is probably not able to build the kind of projects you want to build. Can I put it that way?
Yes.
That consultation rate, I think, is a really important pre-qualifier to getting the kind of clients you really want. And I was just talking to a really good friend. We're thinking of going on an RV trip, a bike trip, where we're going to rent these RVs. And we were sitting around, each of us had our iPads safely 6 feet apart, and we were Googling different places you could rent RVs. And my girlfriend said, there's a filter, make sure to sort it by price. And I did. And she said, I always start looking at the most expensive RV because I want a luxury experience. And I thought, that's true. So do I. So are you looking for the customer who's filtering by the most expensive, ergo seemingly the most value? Or are you looking for the customer who's sorting by the cheapest? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd want to. Definitely, because I do want the one with more expensive. We don't take on a job unless it's at least, our minimum's $275,000, and then we go up from there. So
I can tell you, if I went to you and I wanted to build a house and you were going to charge me $100 for the consultation, and one of your competitors was charging $1,200 for the consultation, 100% go to your competitor. And I would think, of course I wouldn't know this, but I would make up in my head that the person who's charging $1,200 is more suited to the level of quality I want.
Okay.
Right?
That helps a lot, because I was just about to roll that out on our website. So maybe I should charge more, and then I'll get the clientele that I'm wanting to come to me without me going to search for them. Because I've been struggling with, what do I charge? What do I do? Yeah. So that's helpful.
Well, and the other thing, it depends too. Like for some people, they want to go to the consultation for free. They want to chat. They want to have a meet and greet. I don't have time for that. If I'm going to pay you $1,000 for the consultation, what am I going to get? So it's so interesting. We just are refilming all of the process for Business of Design, and I'm able to go back and really add so much more detail now. And one of the things we emphasize in step 1 is you have to be able to articulate what the value is that you're going to give clients at that consultation. So in other words, it's not like, it's $1,000 or I don't get out of bed, honey. It's $1,000, and this is what you're going to get for $1,000. And what they're going to get for $1,000 should sound like $1,000 worth of amazing stuff, right?
Yeah, that definitely. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Of course. Yay. Nice to meet you. Turns out there were just too many great questions to fit into one podcast. So next week, part 2, asked and answered. If you'd like to get in on Business of Design group coaching, we'd love to have you. It's the perfect time to consider membership. Stay healthy, stay well. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you for being a part of the Business of Design community. If you love what you hear on the podcast, take the next step by signing up at businessofdesign.com. As our thank you, you'll gain access to Business of Design's 15-step project management strategy, a free introductory course which includes 3 Business of Design systems you can implement for immediate results. And when you're ready for success, a Business of Design membership, monthly or annual, will dramatically improve your business and your life. What are you waiting for? Together we will achieve extraordinary results. Start today.